Welcome to Law Talk, the show that brings the law, the news, and the Constitution to you each month. And tonight, myself, James Barrett, along with Mark Malakowski, are going to cover some serious subjects. Mark, what do we have tonight?
Well, first of all, we're going to talk about the Las Vegas Massacre, where 58 country music fans were murdered, and 500 were shot up during an open-air concert that had about 20,000 people attending. So that's going to be the first issue. And then we're going to talk about a little bit about the Second Amendment and gun rights and that kind of thing. And then the other part of the show, we're going to talk about Colin Kaepernick and his protest and the kneeling when they play the national anthem at the NFL football games, which has caused a lot of controversy.
Well, this guy's we're gonna get to that part, but let's start with the seriousness of what happened in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago with the shooting by Stephen Paddock, who actually checked into a comped suite in the Mandalay Bay on the 32nd floor. And the story behind this seems to continually change, but what we're going to talk about tonight is just the event itself and how it reflects on our culture and what people have been talking about, how to limit guns. Again, this story. Mark, why is it that the first thing that certain party chooses to talk about is limiting guns when, in fact, all these guns were purchased legally?
Well, here's the issue. Okay, so anytime there's a big a mass shooting, it always goes to gun control. But what I would say about that is that there's two types of animals, okay? There's predators and there's prey, okay? So let's say you've got a cougar chasing after a gazelle, right?
Correct.
Now, I think everyone would agree the gazelle has a right to use its horns and its hoofs to defend itself against a cougar.
Of course.
And so if you're going to say, well, we need gun control, that's kind of like sawing the horns off the gazelle and say, well, if we saw the horns off the gazelle, there'll be less predators. But that's not actually the case. What's going to happen?
Wait a minute. If you saw the horns off the gazelle, isn't it logical that the gazelle will not be able to defend itself against the predator?
Well, the cougar is going to have a lot more gazelle to eat, and they're going to have a lot more cougars. So I would say it would increase the predators rather than to decrease them. So that's one kind of like, natural argument.
Is that a natural argument for gun control? And
well, it's
taking away the antlers is similar to taking away the guns.
Exactly.
So
okay.
We can't defend ourselves.
And then the other thing about the Second Amendment is that the Second Amendment does not grant anyone a right to have a gun. Okay, the founders felt that everyone had a right to defend themselves. Everyone had a right to bear arms as individuals, as the people. You know, it says as the people in the Bill of Rights. The people have a right to bear arms. And that's a God-given right. And what the Second Amendment does is nearly enunciate that God-given right.
Okay, well, it's interesting because the Second Amendment, when it was written, was based on the concept that the governments can be totalitarian in nature. And if you don't have the ability to repel the totalitarian nature of a government run amok, then you will be just rolled over by that government. And so the Second Amendment actually protects you from the government. And it's not that I'm protected from the guy next door necessarily, but the fact is that the people join together to stop tyranny at the hands of a totalitarian government.
But if you look back at the concept that, it's a God-given right, if you look at Exodus 20:13, okay, in the Bible, the biblical doctrine of self-defense, it says, thou shalt not kill. That's 20:13 in Exodus. And if you look at thou shalt not kill, that's not really a valid translation. That's the Greek translation, thou shalt not kill. If you go to Hebrew, which just came down, this is Mosaic law, this came down to Moses, the Ten Commandments, it's thou shalt not murder, okay? And what that means, thou shalt not use excessive or disproportionate violence where it's unnecessary. Thou shalt not murder. Now, you can kill in self-defense, you can kill for certain reasons, but murder is, murder is killing without excuse or defense.
Correct. In fact, murder, as we all know in the Bible, murder is the ultimate crime, no matter how you look at it. Because technically speaking, if you look back at the source of the religious doctrine, the concept of taking a life is left alone to God, basically. And that is either through the natural course of a life or through any natural disaster or things like that. So for man to step into God's shoes effectively and take a life, and that's why I believe that it was made the ultimate crime against nature and a crime against society, so to speak.
Okay, so, but when you have a negative commandment like that, you also have a positive corollary. And so if you have a negative, thou shalt not murder, that also means you're supposed to preserve life. You're not supposed to commit suicide. And you have not just the right to self-defense, but an obligation to self-defense. And so if you go back into the 1600s when you had, it was 1640 in Massachusetts when you had a pastor walking to the meeting hall, and he had a blunderbuss on his shoulder, like an old-fashioned gun. And someone came up to him and goes, well, you know, Pastor, don't you believe in the sovereignty of God? He goes, yeah, of course I do. And don't you believe that everything's predestined by God? He said, yes, I do. And so don't you believe when the day to die comes, it's your day to die? And he goes, yes, I believe that too. And he said, aha, why are you carrying a gun with you? And the pastor says, well, just in case I meet an Indian it's his day to die. So, and then I think Chetty...
Well, that's the Massachusetts Bay Colony, maybe. Yeah, but no, what's interesting about all of this, and what is, when you look back at the nature of the religious doctrine that at least our country has been raised under, the concept of murder is a heinous event no matter how you look at it. Unfortunately, people tie the taking of a life in different manners. Now, we've talked about abortion before. We've talked about right to die and suicide. We've talked about euthanasia. We've talked about a lot of those things. But today, the real question is, what is it that drives somebody to take the lives of innocents without an apparent motive? And this is what the Las Vegas Massacre really is. And
okay,
so
but let me address that. Okay, first of all, Arutz Shiva, which is the Israeli national news, which is like their New York Times, their report is Shamar al-Hahib, a shooter from Las Vegas, according to an unofficial report from Rashid Bet, which is like their main radio station. The Las Vegas shooter name is Samar al-Hajib. He's an American who converted to Islam at the age of 30 and lives in Las Vegas. So that's from the Israeli New York Times. So they say he converted to Islam, and that's the shooter. And then you have the ISIS Weekly, El Naba online magazine, in its issue number 100, you can look that up on Google, has provided more evidence to bolster its prior claims that Muslim convert Samer al-Shabi Akil Abdul Bar al-Marika, a.k.a. Stephen Paddock, killed 58 country music stands, concert goes in Las Vegas, and a well-planned ISIS military operation. So you have ISIS claiming credit for it on their site that is previously been about 98% accurate. And you have the Israeli, basically New York Times, and the Israelis know a little bit about terrorism, claiming that he's an ISIS guy who did the shooting.
Well, that raises the unquestionable issue. Why are the stories that have been brought forward by the Las Vegas police so clear that he was a lone wolf and that he had no ties to any...
What was interesting, 12 hours after this massacre of 50 people, you know, and 12 hours later, FBI goes, oh, it's not tied to ISIS. Well, wait a minute. The FBI has been investigating Trump for a year, saying that Putin rigged the election and fixed the voting machines, and they still haven't made up their mind. But like instantly, the FBI goes, "Oh, it's not ISIS." It seems like consciousness of guilt. But here's the interesting: Marxist media mogul, CBS executive Haley Gold, who's vice president over at CBS, you know, said it was a great thing that these guys were, these guys were singing "God Bless America" and holding candles. 20,000 people singing "God Bless America," holding candles, an hour before they got shot up. Okay, and you've got this media mogul at CBS saying, "Oh, it's a great thing The concept of
She lost her job over that.
Yeah,
by
but
the
I'm
way.
just saying,
In fact,
oh.
she was terminated. Terminated. But that's funny enough.
Fired.
She was fired.
But-
The fact of the matter was, she was actually fired within 12 hours after texting that on
Yeah, but-
social
but-
media.
but I'm saying
In
that-
fact, she said they were all Republicans and they all voted for Trump
And they
they
deserved-
deserved to
they
die.
all deserve to
so
die.
I have to tell you, I have to commend CBS. If it takes that much to get fired, yeah, thank God that there's a level of that at still
Yes, anyway, so
at CBS.
So nobody really knows what happened, and nobody will ever really know because, of course, the shooter got killed instantly. Just like the evidence always seems to disappear. Like, oops, oh, the Miami shooting, that evidence all disappeared. Oh, the 911 tapes are all gone. Oh, the San Bernardino stuff. Oh, foreign journalists broke in.
Foreign journalists stole it all.
Oh, so the FBI takes control of all these crime scenes that are ISIS crime scenes, right? And they're all workplace violence. And all the evidence always disappears like, ooh, we lost the evidence. So just coincidence after coincidence, the FBI could not catch a cold when it comes to ISIS jihadists shootings and massacres.
Well,
the FBI
we
could not
know
catch a cold.
we know that the FBI has had 8 years of being wussified by the prior administration.
could not catch
and
a
heaven
cold.
forbid that somebody blames
ISIS.
Islam for anything in America.
But anyway, when it
oh,
comes
it's a
down-
holy war.
So now that you've got ISIS, who's been cleared by the FBI,
Oh,
and
cleared.
covered by them,
We've already been cleared.
and they're shooting up people and getting rid of all the witnesses. The witnesses immediately die after the event. Okay, and they're shooting up Trump supporters who are singing God Bless America by the bundle. And he would have killed thousands if his gun didn't jam.
And you know what's funny?
Just that his gun
We
jammed.
haven't even got to the bump stock, but the bump stock causes the guns to jam.
And so, but I mean, but here's, and also how many shooters, we don't know. But I think then they turn this around and go, well, the gazelles, they have horns, and the cougars wouldn't be eating the gazelles if the gazelles didn't have horns. So let's take all the guns from the Trump supporters so we can shoot them all.
Heaven forbid the Trump supporters
Can defend themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, so anyway, but I think Chevy Chase, the comedian, I think summed it up. Because he had an illegal gun in his car. He got pulled over, and, he got in some trouble, and the press was giving him a hard time, and they go, Chevy, do you think everyone should have a gun? And you know what his answer was?
No, I don't.
He said, I don't think everyone should have a gun. I think only me should have a gun. So, of course, everybody wants to have the person with a gun. If you listen to Obama's communications director, right, whose idol was Mao Tse-tung, who killed 65 million political prisoners, which is basically anybody who could grow a beard in China, because there was 180 million people and he killed 65 million when he took over in his Cultural Revolution to achieve social justice.
Social justice. Wait a minute. I've heard about social justice. Isn't that what we've been living under for 8 years? Social justice?
Kill anybody who can grow a beard. That's called social justice.
Oh, my God.
And so anyway, but the point is, she was Obama's first communication, and she said, "Oh, Mao is my idol."
You're not talking about Marie Harf, are you?
I can't remember her name.
The blonde?
Whatever, but she was the first communication. And what Mao said, and I'm not much one for Marxist dialectics. I mean, I don't find it that enjoyable reading. I've read it all, but Mao Tse-tung said, all political power comes from the barrel of a gun. And even though I'm not a Marxist and I'm not a Maoist, I agree on this one particular point 110% with Mao. All political power comes from a barrel of a gun. And if the people don't have guns, they have no political power. Period.
Wait a minute. This goes back to what I talked about a little earlier with the idea that the people need to be protected from a regime, a tyranny, a totalitarian government that would effectively suppress you every single moment of the day if they knew you had no way to protect yourself. And we, the people, have the right to repel that tyranny. And there's no question in my mind, Mark, there is something fishy in Vegas. And I'm going to tell you.
Well, the thing is, if the
story is off.
No, if the FBI investigates an ISIS attack, what happened in Vegas is going to stay in Vegas. That's for sure.
No, it's going to vanish from Vegas.
Vanish from Vegas.
And by the way, did you also hear that Paddock's home was burglarized? know, stuff was missing.
Did something happen to his brother?
Yeah, and his brothers all of a sudden went silent.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what's funny? I got to tell you, there's nothing funny about this event except this. The brother, the first question he was asked is, why did your brother do it? And he said, my brother couldn't have done it. He's a millionaire. One of his first answers was how rich he is, and money wouldn't allow him to do this. I find that everything is so inconsistent with this whole process. They have yet to identify a motive. Now they're trying to say, well, he had mental problems. Mental problems. It seemed like he could plan. He had millions of dollars. He could buy weapons all over the state and in California, the state of Nevada and California. And he seemed to be able to put together shooting positions in 2 windows. He got comped near the top of the Mandalay Bay
And I
suite.
think that's tens.
Oh my God!
Thousands and thousands.
Oh,
of
he's
dollars.
mentally. Yeah, it is.
Thousands
a night. And you know what's crazy about this, Mark? If he was so out of his mind, how did he move 23 guns and thousands of rounds of ammunition with no one paying attention?
But also look at this. Okay,
Let's
let's say you're playing blackjack at a blackjack table in Vegas, right? And you're counting cards and you're taking an extra half a second to look at the cards or something. Cameras pick that up.
Every second.
So, I mean, if you're at a casino, you're under video, right? Where's the videos?
Where are all the videos?
Where's the videos?
Because they say he was playing and this is interesting. Steve Wynn, the casino owner, said he never drank. And now they're saying he was drinking all day.
Okay,
Steve Wynn said he's been in his casino endlessly. Never drank.
Where's the videos of him leaving his car and going to the elevator?
Oh, they don't have them.
Okay, where's the videos of him going up the elevator?
They don't have them.
Where's the video of him going down the hallway?
Oh, they don't have them.
Okay, so all the places...
What about moving in guns and bags?
But that would have been all those videos.
All the videos. Got to have all of them moving stuff in.
And what day did he show up? What day he didn't? But I'm just saying, I would say that if you look at the Israeli New York Times, they're saying this guy's ISIS, and ISIS is claiming on a site that's 98% accurate. And I'm not saying you can trust the Israeli New York Times or you can trust ISIS.
And I'm wondering how everything was so swept so clean on this entire transaction. This is like Lee Harvey Oswald. It's interesting you would have brought that up.
Yeah, he gets shot. You know,
the guy, oh, by the way, he's shot by a gangster that walks in the middle of a police station and kills him, so he can't
And then that guy gets shot.
And by the way, he dies and gets shot too. So, he gets shot in prison. He got shot in the jail cell. This is, I got to tell you, Mark,
but anyway, the point is
the biggest problem.
But if you look at the victims, okay, you look at the Tennessee shooting, right?
Right.
Okay, the Tennessee shooting, these were, Christians going to church.
Right.
Marxist ISIS attack. Okay, and luckily the usher had a gun in his car.
The usher had a gun, a concealed carry.
Otherwise, those guys, there'd be dozens of people dead, okay?
Right.
If you look at the 5 Dallas cops, right? Another jihadist Marxist attack, assassination, political assassination. I would say all 3 of these incidents, the Dallas incident, the Tennessee church shooting, and the Vegas are all politically motivated military actions by Marxist jihadists.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
I can't guarantee it. I can't prove it.
Yeah,
but
we can't prove anything yet. You know why we can't prove it? Because we're not looking at videos. Oh, and by the way, the room service people said they were in his room every day, and nobody saw shooting platforms. Nobody saw bags and bags and bags of weapons. Nobody saw anything. This entire incident is like, look, Luke, don't look in this. There is nobody in the saucer. Look the other way. And this is like sleight of hand that's going on that's almost ridiculous.
But I mean, I think that shows consciousness of guilt. The FBI, 12 hours after the shooting, go like,
oh,
definitely wasn't ISIS.
Oh, wasn't ISIS. Wasn't ISIS.
They've been trying to find how Putin rigged the voting boxes for a year, and we're still looking at it,
Oh.
But 12 hours, like, we're sure it's not ISIS.
Oh, it's not ISIS. We know for sure because that's how good we are.
Yeah,
oh, by the way, voting booth? The Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. But no, ISIS is not coming. And heaven forbid we have American-born terrorists.
Well, the thing about it is the FBI is even forbidden to say the word ISIS. They're forbidden to say the word jihadist.
I was hoping that Trump would loosen that up a little bit.
No, these guys, anybody who would, if you say, oh, I think an ISIS guy did the shooting, you're fired. or you would never have the job in the first place. So,
well, you can't discriminate against those peaceful Muslims.
And then the thing about it is that when you watch the sheriff on TV and the FBI guys there, it's like the sheriff's like a prisoner, you know. He's like, okay, you know, it's like the FBI guys, you better not say anything. The sheriff's like, well, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, it's hard to tell. And the FBI's going, you don't want to have your family killed, do you? So, I mean, to me, it looks like a Marxist jihadist shooting. I can't prove it, but I mean, it's awfully dang suspicious.
Well, the thing that's interesting is his beautiful girlfriend, he shipped her off to the Philippines a couple of weeks in advance, sent her $100,000 so she could buy a house. He said, stay there, here's a house, you can go buy a house. But what gets me is what a cheapskate.
Well, he was also...
What a cheapskate. He could have sent $1 million.
But he was also in Qatar, I think.
He was in Dubai.
Dubai.
No one wants to talk about this. This guy has been traveling the world for years, and he's been all over the Middle East.
Yeah,
and
so
he spent a lot of time
there.
And they seem to forget that in all these news stories. Because one news story came out talking about this, and all of a sudden, shut it down. No. He only went to Lake Tahoe. Yeah. Oh, he went to Lake Tahoe. He only went to Alaska. He went to Hawaii.
But the thing is, like, oh, we're totally mystified.
Oh,
you know, okay.
How could he do it? How could this innocent millionaire
oh
do
my gosh,
this?
what could it be? Well, let's see. ISIS announced that he's their guy.
Oh.
The Israeli newspapers saying he's an ISIS guy. But, but the FBI didn't read any of those. It's like,
no, the FBI didn't read those stories. Well, you know what story they did read? They read the dossier put out by the Clinton administration through the Russians that, the one where he had prostitutes urinating on him in bed. That's what the FBI was reading.
Well, that's the kind of stuff they like.
That's what they really want. It's
like
all
Weinsteins. Where are the Weinsteins? Well, it's a yabba dabba do time. Okay,
anyway,
so anyway, that's the thing. The FBI couldn't catch a cold when it comes to ISIS.
I don't understand this. You know, James Comey, he first says, yes, I leaked all that information in a private conversation with the president. You just committed federal felonies by saying that, let alone the fact you typed it up on a company computer, let alone you handed it to Mr. Far-left professor, my buddy, who immediately sent it to the New York Times. I got to tell you, Mark, we are living in the Alice in Wonderland. Are we going to get out of here?
The sheriff should really be in charge of this, because I don't think the FBI has any credibility at all. It's like a joke. Anyway, so that's kind of the thing that we're at now. You know, you've got like one of the biggest massacres we've had in a long time.
It is the #1 largest mass killing ever in the United States.
And what they're doing, well, not necessarily. There was,
no, it is.
No, there was 9/11.
No, I'm talking about by a citizen in a shooting.
We don't really know if he was the shooter.
Well,
yeah, we don't really know anything. All the evidence has been disappeared. The shooter's not interrogated.
Well, they found his body. What's interesting is...
maybe they drug his body
Wait a minute. You know how many movies where they have a shooter allegedly and then he commits suicide? But in reality, it's the guy. They have his prints on the gun, but hey, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we don't really...
I hate to get into a mystery here.
No, but we don't really know. But the point is, you know, this is a big massacre. And of course, what CBS, besides cheering and going, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, they're killing a bunch of Trumpsters singing God Bless America, kill all the Trumpsters. They're having a big old party on that. You know, besides that, you know, it's besides having a big jubilee over this and being happy that Trumpsters are being massacred like sitting ducks because they can't be armed.
Well, they could, and you know what the worst part was? They were in a very small area, and it was very difficult to escape because there was only so many exits, and the fences they had, they couldn't get over. So that meant it was just like a shooting gallery.
So they're taking the sitting duck thing of massacring Trumpsters for fun and
in a small pond
for fun and profit, and just for a good old party. For CBS is having a good old time about this. You know, and cheering people on. Oh, good, kill more Trumpsters, kill more Trumpsters. Hey, we're the CBS, we love it.
I bet you they were partying in Hollywood.
And so they're having a big party. They're cheering this on. They're convincing other people to do copycats. And
but what are they saying? Take their guns.
Okay, so
nobody can have a gun.
And then the next day, CBS is like, oh, well, take the Trumpsters' guns. Take the Trumpsters' guns.
They're all about take the guns.
Yeah, so I mean,
heaven forbid.
People, you know, so that is what this whole thing is. The whole thing now is the propaganda. Oh, we got to take guns away from people that we're trying to massacre.
Oh, well, wait a minute. Wasn't it Obama administration that said, I forget it was the Clinton or the Obamas. They said you never let a good disaster go without political motivation. So what are they doing here? Hey, they got a shooting. Let's take the guns.
Yeah. So anyway, this is it's like turning the world on its head. The FBI should no longer be in charge of any of these things. The local sheriff should be in charge of this. The FBI has lost all credibility. CBS is showing their hand, is like they're just promoting these massacres.
It's not just CBS, NBC, ABC.
Well, it's all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same.
They're all the same.
They're all the Pravda
yeah,
for the progressives.
And so, you know,
Social justice.
Social justice.
It's got to be social justice.
And so, you know, they're promoting.
Must be social justice.
And then they said did the same thing with the Tennessee shooting, the same thing with the Dallas shooting. They've covered all these.
Don't forget Charlotte's. Now there's no history. Oh, by the way, the Civil War was only fought by the North against the North.
Well,
because, as you remember, everyone that ever was in the South doesn't exist anymore.
Well, no, I mean, what you have is in 1920, the Congress passed a law that everybody who was on the Confederate side in the Civil War is a U.S. veteran, right?
Yep.
So these are U.S. veterans, and now they're saying dishonor those U.S. veterans. But,
dishonor them.
Well, it almost goes into our next thing,
yeah,
where we're talking about other things where you're dishonoring the flag and veterans and everything else.
Well, let's see. You know, I know we're going to we're kind of moving on here, but the question is, it all started with a 49er quarterback who, by the way, lost the Super Bowl because he was so lame that with his long legs he couldn't go 4 yards in 4 plays. Now, I'm going to tell you, that kind of set it for him as a 49er. And I will guarantee there was a great sigh of relief when Mr. Colin Kaepernick marched on to the netherworld of football has-beens. And thank God. And if I have to listen to this one more time about what a great quarterback, well, we know the NFL, no one picked him up. And it's not because of his taking a knee. It's because he's a pathetic quarterback. And it starts at that Super Bowl, where he lost the Super Bowl personally. Okay, Mark, what do you think about Mr. Kaepernick?
Well, you know, you gotta love him. Okay, so
I gotta love him.
There's a big thing, NFL versus the Trump. Okay, and Colin Kaepernick, he was the guy who started this "Take a Knee" to denounce the American flag. Founder. He wears "Cops are pig socks." Right?
Cops are pig socks.
Okay, he wears a Fidel Castro T-shirt. Okay, he gives a raised fist salute.
Raise fist.
And that means it's a ukmangrando a suize.
Ukmangrando.
MK symbol that means we pledge to kill all the non-Marxists.
Oh, it sounds like infidels, by the way.
Using the Winnie Mandela necklace, which is a fire filled with kerosene.
Well, I think, Mark, I hear the tweaks in the background here.